carried in the bloodstream down to the adenohypophysis. There it causes certain specific secretory cells in the adenohypophysis to release the hormone thyrotropin, also known as TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, into the bloodstream. Thyrotropin, or TSH, circulates in our bloodstream and specifically stimulates the cells of the thyroid gland to secrete thyroxine, T4 and T3 in the bloodstream. Now, what prevents this from over-secreting the thyroxine? As the thyroid gland, the thyrotropin causes the thyroid gland to secrete more and more thyroxine. The thyroxine hormone levels in our bloodstream start to rise. The increasing levels of thyroxine in our bloodstream inhibit these cells, these secretory cells in the adenohypophysis from releasing any more thyrotropin. That shuts off further secretion of thyrotropin and prevents over-secretion of thyroxine. That is an example of a negative feedback response, a negative feedback loop. This is known as the short negative feedback loop. The increasing thyroxine hormone levels in the bloodstream also inhibit the hypothalamic neurons from releasing TRH. So that is called a long negative feedback loop. This is a negative feedback response. This is basically what all of physiology is about. Alright, so that ensures the normal levels. Now, just for a reminder, we said that our liver is going to start to break down these hormones, including thyroxine, and as thyroxine levels, our thyroxine is broken down in the bloodstream, the level of thyroxine will start to decline, go down. That'll take away the inhibition, and the hypothalamic neurons will start to release TRH again, and the TRH will cause cells of the adenohypophysis to release thyrotropin again, and that will stimulate the thyroid gland to start secreting thyroxine again. Now, going back to 128, it's that same picture. I could have used the picture we just looked at. If somebody has a low level of thyroxine in their bloodstream, it could be that the problem is the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is not secreting enough thyroxine. If the problem is in the thyroid gland, that's called primary hypothyroidism. But it's possible that the reason why the thyroid gland isn't secreting very much thyroxine could be because the pituitary, the adenohypophysis, isn't secreting enough thyrotropin. If the real problem is in the pituitary, that's called secondary hypothyroidism. The only reason why the thyroxine hormone level is low is because the pituitary isn't secreting enough of this thyrotropin or TSH to stimulate the thyroid to secrete thyroxine. In fact, it's then even possible that the only reason why the pituitary isn't secreting enough thyrotropin is because the hypothalamic neurons aren't secreting enough TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone. If the real problem is up in the hypothalamus, that's called third level or tertiary hypothyroidism. Now, on the one hand, we might simply argue, look, Professor King, what difference does it make whether the problem is in the thyroid or the pituitary or even up there in the hypothalamus? Isn't it true that if the patient has hypothyroidism, they need thyroxine? They need synthetic thyroxine or synthroid. It doesn't matter whether the problem is here, or up here. You're right. They're going to be needing thyroxine in any case. But if the problem is up in the pituitary or up in the hypothalamus, it might be a much more serious problem than simply hypothyroidism. Because there could be other things going on here. The real problem is up in the pituitary gland or in the brain. So a doctor who simply went and said, they were low in thyroxine. I measured the thyroxine hormone levels, but I never bothered to check whether the thyrotropin levels were normal or not. I figured they're just going to give thyroxine anyhow, so I never bothered to check. And then they found out that there was a tumor or something growing in their pituitary or brain, and the patient may have died 6 months later. And imagine how the family would have felt if they had found out from other doctors that any good doctor would have checked to make sure that the reason why they had low thyroxine was not because of a low thyrotropin level or something abnormal up in the pituitary or even up in the hypothalamus of the brain. To help us understand this, let's take a look at page 224A. 224A. Now, this scary-looking form it shows the most common blood test that doctors run. And by the time we actually get to 224A, we will understand 70% of the information on this page of 224A. All that we're given as far as information is that it's a female patient. Now, they did all kinds of blood tests on her, and we will learn more about this later. But I want to draw your attention to the bottom here, towards the bottom of 224A, where they measured her T4 level by RIA. T4, tetrahydrothyronine, also known as thyroxine, and they measured it by radioimmunoassay. And they found that her thyroxine level was 2.6. The units are micrograms per deciliter, and this is the normal range. So how would you describe this patient? Here's her thyroxine level, here's the normal range. She has hypothyroidism, unlike that other guy whose thyroxine level was in the normal range. Hers is lower than normal. She does have hypothyroidism. This was a good doctor because they actually not only ran T4 levels, they ran TSH. Thyrotropin is also known as TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. They measured her TSH, or thyrotropin levels. They got 77. The normal range is 0.3 to 5 milli-international units per liter. So, here's the question. Clearly, her TSH is outside the normal range. Is there a problem, the thyroid, or is it the pituitary?
The thyroid.
It is the thyroid. Let's make sure we understand how to interpret this. I know that as you're looking at this, you're going, look, that said high. It must be the pituitary. Let's analyze this. Going back to our page 138. On our 138 diagram, we could have used the one on 129. Same thing. Look, her thyroxine levels are very, very low. They're lower than normal. She has hypothyroidism. They measured her thyrotropin, her TSH levels. They're really high. Clearly, her pituitary is able to produce lots of thyrotropin, and it's just that her thyroid gland isn't responding. It's barely secreting any thyroxine. Look, the only way that if the pituitary is releasing either the normal level of thyrotropin or more than normal, it's clearly functioning, and it's just trying to get the damn thyroid gland to secrete thyroxine. What it would look like if somebody has a problem with the pituitary for hypothyroidism is if they measured the thyroxine levels and the thyroxine was lower than normal, and then they measured the TSH or thyrotropin level, and it was also lower than normal, then we would say, you know why the thyroxine level is lower than normal? Because the thyrotropin or TSH level is lower than normal. So that's what we would, in that case, we would say the real problem is the pituitary, or maybe even up in the hypothalamus, we have to test the TRH level. But the problem is, if the pituitary is not releasing enough thyrotropin, that would explain why the thyroid isn't secreting enough thyroxine. In this case, the pituitary is releasing massive amounts of thyrotropin or TSH. And you might say, well, why is it so high? Why did she have a thyrotropic or TSH level 77 so much higher than normal? And the answer is, her thyroxine hormone level in the blood is so low, it's not inhibiting these cells at all. So these cells are not being inhibited, so they're just secreting a lot of thyrotropin. It's doing exactly what we would want it to do. It's trying to get the damn thyroid gland to work, and it's not working. So that's the classic way most people who have hypothyroidism, the problem is in the thyroid, not in the pituitary, and the way it looks is exactly like this patient on page 224. This is the most common way that it appears. They will have low thyroxine levels, but their TSH level will be higher than normal. That simply indicates the problem is in the thyroid, not the pituitary. The pituitary is doing fine. It's trying to secrete, it's secreting a lot of thyrotropin. It's trying to get the thyroid gland to secrete thyroxine. That's called primary hypothyroidism, and that's the most common form of hypothyroidism. Understanding thyroxine is really, really important. It is one of the most common of all the clinical disorders. Page 134. So this was our summary kind of picture showing the various hormones released by the adenohypothesis. So far, we have spoken of thyrotropin hormone, or TSH, affecting the thyroid, adrenocorticotropic hormone affecting the release of cortisol and the glucocorticoid steroids from the adrenal cortex. Now I want to look at the two gonadotropic hormones, follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, known as LH. Now, we actually first talked about these two gonadotropic hormones back in section C, when we were learning the menstrual cycle, and in the broader context of how a woman's body temperature changes between the first 2 weeks of the menstrual cycle and the next 2 weeks, and the release of progesterone. I want to remind you of the menstrual cycle. On page 132B, you remember this chart. Okay, this chart, and you probably have a lot of extra notes on it, goes back to section C. And that's where we described it. Let's just summarize it. We are reminded that in women, the pituitary gland releases FSH and LH beginning at puberty. But it releases these two hormones cyclically, alternately. It releases FSH for 2 weeks, and then it switches to LH for the next 2 weeks. FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, does exactly what its name says. It stimulates the growth of an ovarian follicle in the ovary. Now, we talked all about that back in section C. And not only does FSH cause an ovarian follicle to grow, and it causes the follicle cells to secrete estrogen. And estrogen, of course, is the feminizing hormone, and it does cause some thickening, not a lot, but some thickening of the endometrial lining of the uterus. Beginning approximately on day 14, the pituitary switches and starts releasing LH. The first thing that luteinizing hormone, or LH, does is it causes ovulation. It causes the egg to pop out of the ovary and enter the fallopian tube. So now a woman can get pregnant. The LH continues to be secreted for another 2 weeks. For the 2 weeks after ovulation, approximately, and it stimulates the corpus luteum, which is the name we give to the follicle cells after the egg pops out. Instead of calling it an ovarian follicle, we call it corpus luteum. And it causes these follicle cells to secrete progesterone and estrogen. Progesterone is the hormone that prepares a woman's body for pregnancy, and it causes growth of blood vessels in the endometrial lining. So there is significant thickening of the endometrial lining and growth of blood vessels as the womb, as the uterus is being prepared for possible implantation by an embryo. If the egg's been ovulated, the woman could get pregnant. And so now the womb will be all prepared in case she does get pregnant. Now, by approximately day 28, the pituitary stops releasing LH. This happens whether or not she gets pregnant. The pituitary stops releasing LH. Of course, we know that if she gets pregnant, there is a hormone that works like LH, that does what LH does, called human chorionic gonadotropin, produced by the outer sac, the chorionic sac of the baby. So if she gets pregnant, the corpus luteum won't degenerate, even though LH is not being secreted by the pituitary. There's a hormone that mimics LH called chorionic gonadotropin that will continue to stimulate the corpus luteum to continue to secrete progesterone for the duration of the pregnancy. But assuming she doesn't get pregnant, and there is no human chorionic gonadotropin, so the pituitary stops releasing LH, the corpus luteum degenerates, it stops secreting progesterone, and without progesterone, there's the shedding of the endometrial lining. That's called menstruation, and the cycle begins all over again. If she has gotten pregnant, then the chorionic gonadotropin continues to stimulate the corpus luteum to secrete progesterone, and that kind of shuts off the pituitary, because basically it's still detecting progesterone levels, and so it just stops it from releasing, switching to FSH. So basically, you stop 10 menstrual cycles during pregnancy. I will assume that she didn't get pregnant, so the pituitary switches back to FSH and we begin all over again. So let's summarize what we've just said by looking at a chart that is on page 133. So on page 133, all right, so here it says gonadotropin hormones, FSH and LH. Here they are, the two gonadotropin hormones, the two hormones that affect the reproductive organs. And here I've listed what they do in males. We'll address that out. But what do they do in females? FSH is released during the first 2 weeks, called the pre-ovulatory phase. It stimulates the development of ovarian follicles in the ovaries, and it stimulates the secretion of estrogen by the follicle cells of the ovary. LH is secreted during the post-ovulatory phase. It stimulates ovulation, and it stimulates the production of progesterone and estrogen by the corpus luteum.